That is just super sad. You see, that it's just a tearjerker, really. And also joining us live from Ondo State on these topics we'll be discussing today is Adams Abu. He's a former Deputy Director, DSS, and also a security expert. Many thanks for taking time to join us, sir. And let us just dive right into this topic we have today. Benue State, whenever Benue State is in the news, it's always this peculiarity. It's either it's about IDP, it's about armed herders attack. And this is one too many if you have to agree with me. And in this particular community, that is the Abagana community, the chiefs there said that this is like the fourth time this is going to be happening. One would expect that when it's happened the first time, it's supposed to, measures should be put in place so it would not happen again. But then it happened the second, the third, and fourth time. So I'm going to be directing this question to Adams Abu, who is joining us live from Ondo State. In this type of situation, what do you propose the government should have done there?
Thank you very much. I I think the issue in Benue, just like most parts of Nigeria, are peculiar cases. Don't also forget that in Benue State, it is not only the headers that are creating crisis in Benue. Don't also forget that Benue itself has internal criminal elements who have been worsening the security situation of the place, I mean of the state over the years. You remember that there are very many cult organizations who have become terrorists, let me say, themselves. And so the headers we are talking about have insiders, certainly, that they are working with, who give them information. And just like the incident in Edo of recent, I mean, Edo train station of recent, there are so many factors affecting the situation. So if we are looking at situation, yes, government security agencies are supposed to have noted these frequent attacks and do appropriate deployments. But again, we should not forget what is their capacity in view of the challenges across the country. How many men do they have to deploy in a particular community and various communities in the state and across Nigeria? So they deploy based on the intensity and what is available to them. I think that is where they have we are looking at their shortcomings. But the community themselves and the state government, how much of community mobilization? We have all seen that in the northeast, the civilian JTF have been very, very effective. And of recent, Benue State set up civilian guards. How effective has been that organization been mobilized to deal with situations like this, even if they don't have the kind of sophisticated equipment? But how much of monitoring of these headers and the internal criminal elements that are there have they successfully done? So we need to activate all these, opportunities for us to deal with situations like we have in Benue and, of course, in several places across the country.
Okay, and you mentioned that there might not be enough people to deploy to this area, but perhaps that is why these attacks are continuous. I know a lot of people have advocated for state policing, it being the solution to some of these attacks that seem localized in some communities. Would you also advocate for state policing for this type of situation?
We have said this several times that we have come a long way in our country, that state police should not be something that we should even be debating before we set it up. But then, how matured have we been? If we look at the various regional security networks that have been set up, there have been cases where there are accusations of being used by politicians against opponents. There are accusations of of recent in one particular state, the head just resigned, claiming that adequate resources also are not being made available. But that is not to say that others are not doing very well. I think it is time for us to look at what are the demerits of state police. We address it and then we can set it up. There is no doubt about the fact that we should have a state police in this country now. But whatever the demerit, like I said, we should be able to work it out and then make sure that the politicians are not allowed to use them against their opponents. We should be able to set up that law that will not allow them, and if they allow them, what should be the punishment for it? We should be able to do that. After all, the Native Authority Police was very, very effective when it was in operation in this country decades back. So I don't think it's something that is. But again, are we going to set it up? I will leave it without funding it appropriately. If we do that, then we'll be in the same place. I mean, we will have not made any. We will not be making any progress just by establishing it by mouth. No, give it adequate resources, adequate training, manpower, and then technology to back them up. If we have that, yes, it is okay.
And I feel it's time for us to really hear from the people who are experiencing this. And joining us live from Benue State is Colonel Paul Emba, retired. He is the SA to Governor Otom on security. Many thanks for joining us at this time.
Thank you very much.
So could you please help paint a picture of what is going on in Benue State and why it seems like it is so peculiar when it comes to armed herders attack?
Please say again. I didn't quite get your question.
Okay, the question I asked was, could you please help paint a picture of what is going on in Benue State right now and why it seems like the state is so peculiar when it comes to armed herders attack?
It might seem the case of herders clashes, herders killings are peculiar to Benue because you see the banks of the Benue River are very attractive to the herders and their animals. Almost all year round has fresh grasses and water to water their animals. So it is quite attractive to them, and in the process they destroy people's farm, the farms belonging to the local population. They also attack them, kill them, burn down their communities in order to have their access to the water bodies and the farms. They even graze on the farms, they destroy their farms as well.
And that this is not the first time something like this is going to be happening in that community. So what is the state government doing? It's not the first, it's not the second, not the third time. How come the state government is letting such repeat itself? One would expect that there should be security constantly watching over that community. So what is the security situation in that area? Watching over that community. So what is the security situation in that?
Of course, there is security presence in the community. But you know, no form of security deployment is 100%. There are gaps, and in this latest incident, we even saw the footpaths that the attackers, the armed herders, infiltrated without animals. They were not coming to graze, they came to kill. They penetrated this community through a bush path while the community was fast asleep and carry out this killings. Some of the people were killed on their beds in their sleep before the security operatives could be alerted. They sneaked out of the community again and ran away into the bushes. Alerted. They sneaked out of the community again and ran away into
A lot of states have adopted the anti-open grazing law, and one would think that are there no stiff penalties for herders who are caught violating this anti-open grazing law in Benue State?
the anti-open grazing law and ranches establishment law is operational, and those who have been caught violating it have been prosecuted. A lot of them have been fined. Some are even in prison for violating this law. But most of the threats are coming from our neighboring states, particularly Nasarawa State. Nasarawa State doesn't have this law in place. Herders graze freely in Nasarawa State, and Nasarawa State shares contiguous boundaries with Benue State. From what we observe, there is impunity on the part of the herders. They cross from from Nasarawa State into Benue. Sometimes when they are caught, they claim mischievously that they don't know where the boundary lies. But they come into even Makurdi town itself. I don't know whether they still feel Makurdi is part of Nasarawa State, but it's all mischief. And it's part of the impunity they used to employ while flouting the anti-open grazing law. So the security challenges we're having mostly they emanate from Nasarawa State. It is Nasarawa State that harbors them. It is from Nasarawa State that they run to when they are chased. They take cover there and they sneak into Benue, kill, and run back to Nasarawa State.
Okay, and the next question that comes to mind is this. Has the federal government made any moves yet to help the internally displaced people in Benue State, especially with this recent attack? Because this one seems like the saddest of them all. Someone beheaded, and then the ones who perpetrated this went away with the head of that person. That is just so dehumanizing. Has Benue State gotten anything yet from the federal government, maybe in terms of providing security or making sure that this does not happen again?
The state government on its own does not have absolute control of the security apparatus of the state. The federal government controls the military, they control the police, the civil defense, and so on and so forth. So there's a limit to what the state government on its own can do. But be that as it may, the security agencies are doing their best. I must commend them for the efforts they are making. These challenges are huge. Like I can tell you, the herdsmen, especially this time, are coming from so many states. We are having challenges in Kwande local government. We're having challenges in Kasinala local government, Ukun, Logo, Guma, Gwe West, and some other local governments, Agatu, up to Agatu. So, you see, it is not possible for the security agencies to cover the whole stretch of this boundary. there are gaps, and it's through these gaps where they are not present that these herdsmen take advantage of, they penetrate, cause havoc, and then disappear. Before the security agencies will react, they have withdrawn and run back to Nasarawa State. So that's what is happening.
For providing insight on what's going on at the state, and thank you so much for being part of Firecrackers today. Insight on what's going on at the state.
It's my pleasure.
Part of Firecrackers today. He is the essay to Governor Otom on security, and now I have to engage you properly now. How significant would you say this anti-open grazing law is and putting an end to armed herders attack in Benue State?
Yes, the anti-open grazing laws by the powers vested in the local and the state assemblies can be made. Benue State has that. I think Ondo State also has it, and quite a number of states where we have had these issues have passed the laws. Now, just as every other challenge that we have had in Nigeria, which has to do with having a law and then implementing the law, this aspect is also caught in that mesh, which is that you can have these laws, and there is an extent to which you are able to implement. As we have heard the last two speakers, the issue of the core security agencies in Nigeria, that is in the hands of the federal government. And one of the accusations that has trailed this government is that of bias, especially when it comes to this issue of herdsmen. Whether we like it or not, that is one negative tag that will follow this government even as they come to the end of their tenure by May 29th. I believe that history will not be kind on this government, no matter how the media spinsmen want to put it. A lot of people have been at the receiving end of so much attacks from these men. Now, how can these laws be given full backing when the agencies are not in the hands of the states? Many states have set up their own vigilante groups, their own homemade solutions. But like one of our speakers said, how much firearms do they have? I believe that when you put two men at the same level, it's not going to be easy for one to overcome the other. However morogen you can be, however symmetrical the warfare is. We're talking about policing right from the scratch, where the people live, where they were born, where they go about their duties. Intelligence gathering will be much easier. But by the time we arrest, or some of these men are arrested and taken to the normal place, you get to see a DPO, for example, who is posted to another part of the country where he's not from, and he doesn't even know what's going on there. Some of the time also we get, as they tell us, that there are orders from above for them to release whoever has been arrested. How do you think those laws will finally get implemented? Okay, so just as we had the Colonel say, you will see this contiguous border zone between Nasarawa, for example, in their case, and Benue. By the time they come in, it becomes a hit and run attack. They come into Benue, they strike, they quickly go out, and then you don't have the capacity unless you set up a joint state or the middle belt kind of states coalition or assembly, whereby the governments there can now come together and address it holistically. In this kind of situation, what are you going to do? So I still believe, for me, state policing is not something that should be debated. Go to the UK. We have the part of the UK police, the Scotland Yard, and the other aspects of their policing, where you have, for example, you have officers trained in Yoruba. You have Yoruba, Nigerian Yoruba have been enlisted in Scotland Yard to help in policing in areas where, because of course in Nigeria we believe that Yoruba have the highest number of Nigerians who are in UK. Now, to help also in policing, they were proactive enough to employ, to open spaces for Yoruba-speaking people, entrants, to join and be enlisted in the police to help in intelligence gathering. How can a policeman who doesn't hear a TV be sent down there to be able to solve a problem? You can't hear the language, and there is so little you can do in terms of intelligence. Intelligence means you have to remove your uniform. You could walk around dressed as a meshai, as they call them, someone who sells tea, and then stay with them, hear what is going on, get this intelligence, and relay it quickly back to your people. If you don't understand the language, how are you going to do that? These are some of the challenges we see. But we here in Nigeria, because we want to be politically correct, you hear things like herders-farmers conflict. Is it really herders-farmers conflict? Let's come down to brass tacks. It's much beyond it. Have we not had herdsmen over the years in Nigeria, 20 years ago? Suddenly, this kind of killings, rape of the people, rape of the economy, rape of communities, just came up from nowhere. And people are dying. You kill someone, cut off his head, you decapitate him and move out with the head. What kind of country is that? And we don't want to address these things. We want to be politically correct and say, no, it's the clashes between farmers and herdsmen. But what we are seeing here is gradual cleansing of a people, ethnic cleansing. And we are seeing boundaries, geographical boundaries being redrawn, because we said this place could be more agriculturally, convenient for our cattle. So men are armed, go in there, evacuate everybody there, and take over the place. In the next 10 years, they become the owners of the land. Yeah, this is exactly what has been going on.
Yes,
the government of the Benue State
camps, this is what they complain about.
That is it.
They want to move back to their
communities, but they cannot go. In Benue, do you know there are 27 IDP camps? What is the battle in Benue State? 27 IDP camps with almost 2 million people in that camp, in those camps, as we talk today. What led to Benue having IDP camps? There's no Boko Haram. This is North Central. It has border with Enugu State. It has border with Nasara, border with It's not far north. Yet there are this number of IDP camps. What is the cause? If not that these men come in and drive them out to take over their lands. If they are allowed to go back to their communities, who will defend them? So when some of these state-owned security organizations, vigilantes, agencies are asking for arms, because the issuance of arms is directly under the federal government, they are told, no, nobody can arm himself. Yet you cannot provide adequate security for these people. And when some of them end up being arrested, something will lead to another thing, they are released. How many of these men have been arrested? Tell me. How many of their cases are in court? How many have we had being convicted and sentenced to death? But Benue has suffered about the worst hit, the worst in all of these situations. Over hundreds of thousands of lives lost over these 8 years, especially. You know, I mean, it's not something that is I said it's going to. This is a tag that will follow this government as it goes, whether they like it or what, however they want to rewrite history. The statistics are there. Google Benue killings, for example. You will see the number of hits you will get.
Yes,
and that shows you that it's not the right thing.
Yes, so if you don't want to make yourself sad, please do not Google that. You will be very sad.
Of course.
I can assure you of that. You will be very sad.
Don't Google it, because the pictures you will see there also are not are not good for the sight.
Yes, it could ruin your appetite for the whole day. That is just how bad it is. And now, let us go on a break.